Education is crucial because it is often seen as the way out and the way forward in our lives. And yet access to education is it's not a level playing field. And by level playing field, I'm saying that not everybody can access it in the same way if you are young, female, and black, which is the subject of my first book, which I wrote many, many years ago in the 1980s. I was doing my PhD, and I decided to go back to the school that I went to when I was young and look at um, try and understand the experiences that I had growing up in Britain as a young migrant girl from Trinidad. Um, and I was really uh, it wasn't an easy task to immerse yourself in your own experiences and try to do that theoretically with using the tools of methodology and analysis. When I was at school in South London, there were only 4 Caribbean girls like myself in the school. And I was told that I wouldn't amount to much. I knew that I wanted to go to Oxford and Cambridge, but they said don't even think about it, and you know that they recommended I do RSA typing course, and also when I came from Trinidad, schooling is very strict and disciplinary there, and I was doing quite well at school, and and when I came to England, they thought that I was cheating. They thought that I couldn't speak English properly. That was an assumption that they made, and that I had cheated in the maths and English tests because I did too well, and they didn't expect somebody from the Caribbean to do that well. So we know that in the 60s and 70s in Britain, there was a drive towards what we call labeling Caribbean West Indian children as educationally subnormal. That means the assumption was that they had a low IQ. And it was a racist assumption based on the history of colonialism, where people of color all over the world were seen as second class to the white authority, to the white intelligence. And so when migrants started to come here in the post-war drive, when they wanted to rebuild Britain and bring the migrants here to do that job, the hospitals, the buses, the hotels, this is what the migrants were brought for and still are being brought for. So in Young Female and Black, my research showed there were low expectations of girls of colour. These were teacher expectations, and those low expectations, we call it the self-fulfilling prophecy. If you think somebody, if you have a low idea of their intelligence and you don't think they're very good, you don't spend much time teaching them. And when you don't spend much time teaching them, they don't do that well. And then the self-fulfilling prophecy will be that the teachers then say, well, they didn't do well. So it's true, they aren't that good. So it is a cycle that we talk about in education, the self-fulfilling prophecy. But at the end of the day, there is no truth in that, because discrimination is really the reason that the young people, young women of colour, weren't doing well in the school that I studied. And the absolute overt discrimination meant that not getting the grades that they wanted for A level, being set and streamed in lower streams so that they could never actually, you know, for example, I was given to do what we call then CSEs, and rather than the GCSE O level. And we still have systems like that now, many, you know, 40, 50 years ago. We still have those tracking and streaming and ideas of people's intelligence and going on in our schools. But the young women did something very, very clever. They would sit in the back of the classroom, just as I did with my mates, and maybe laugh, joke, and, you know, have a good time, because we knew the teacher didn't care. But we would go home and we would work very hard. And I call this a system of strategic rationalisation. So yeah, we didn't get the grades, but we went on to college. A lot of young women, these were the opportunities that were open to us. We did nursing, caring, hairdressing. But if you talk to the woman, they'd say, it isn't that I want to be a nursery nurse or I want to be um, a hairdresser. What I really want to do is go on to university. So they did a course and then they got onto what we used to call then an access course or widening participation or, a special initiative and went on into university. And I call it the long backdoor route into further and higher education. So you don't have the qualifications, but you build up those qualifications through other institutions. So what happens is the women of colour, the black women, the Caribbean women, the Asian women were much older by the time they hit university because they had to do the long route in because of discrimination in the schools. So young female and black also exposed the differences between white femininity and girls in school and black femininity in the girls in school, because the young black women saw themselves as independent, they saw themselves as very much career-minded, and they saw a positive future for themselves. And this is because I argued that there was a long tradition of female and women's strong position in Caribbean societies. We call it like a matrilineal, matrifocal society. There's the idea of the strong black woman as well, because enslavement, this was the purpose of enslavement. The white slave master went out of his way to destroy the black family. And that is the nub of it. They did not want families to be united, to be able to organize against the system of enslavement. And so they broke that family down and they would send men off. And if they had a relationship or anything, they would send them away, and the women were separated in the barracks or wherever they were kept. So the families weren't allowed to unite. And what evolved over, the 500 years of enslavement was that they developed autonomy between the sexes, so that men and women were seen as relatively equal to each other, both expecting to work, both expecting to contribute to circumstances. And so these women were independent, whereas the white women were seen very much, they saw themselves as getting married. Schooling was a waste of time. They didn't really want to be there because all they wanted to do was actually to go into motherhood and live in a nuclear family and be fulfilled in that way. Now, nothing's wrong with that, but it is not necessarily opening the doors to much freedom in your life if you don't have economic autonomy. And the young black women understood the power of economic autonomy or freedom, to have your own wage, to be able to leave a difficult situation, that you have your own income and your own career. So that was a big eye-opener, and I know that a lot of you might know the book Young Female and Black, and I'm hoping that one of you out there will do a study of Young Female and Black 30 years on, because I'd love to know how social media, how the technological revolution that you are living within and living for and within and in shaping your life, and what resonances or what familiarities you might see with the study that I did 30 years ago. I still can see independent young women wanting to go to university, so I'd like to know. So please do your PhD, come and see me. And I have to say that I've done another study looking at migrant and Muslim women in schools more recently. And what I found there is the construction of a different kind of femininity. which I'm going to explain to you